What's up everybody, SuperDucks fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor. Huge thanks to Hoffman Ford for providing me with this very sweet brand new Raptor to review for you guys today. So about the 2017 Raptor, well man, it looks awesome. I mean, just look at it. Every single panel of this car just screams aggression and it's just so awesome. I mean, obviously, I actually really like these standard 2017 F-150s. They look really nice as well still, you know, with the LED headlights and taillights that they all have. But this, especially the Raptor, I mean, you can just see just how much wider these fenders bulge out there by the gap between the headlight and where the fender starts. And it's just crazy looking. I mean, the hood has these vents in it that spike up, and you have additional spiky vents over here on the fenders. These massive all-terrain tires as well, of course, BF Goodrich's, and then in the back there, it's again more fender flares, more aggression. You have the big bold Ford there on the back. And it just looks awesome. I mean, this thing coming down the road, I mean, it's massive, by the way, as well. So, I mean, it's super wide, super tall, and so it's a very strong force on the road. And so anyone that sees this in the rearview mirror knows to get out of the way because this thing is not to be messed with. It just looks awesome. Whereas for the interior of the 2017 Raptor, well, it's a very cool place to be. Anyway, first things first. Well, I first appreciate me being only 5'9". I appreciate the running boards because it helps to get up into this thing because it is pretty high up here. Anyway, first things first, sitting down in these seats, really nice soft leather seats, have the nice, you know, Raptor embroidery here, and they feel a little bit more aggressive than your average, you know, F-150 seat. Now the bolstering is fairly large, although it's not super sporty still. It doesn't feel like, you know, a Shelby or any kind of, you know, sports car or anything like that, but they do hold you in place pretty well, and you know, are obviously designed to accommodate all body types, not just skinny ones like myself here. And then the seat bottom is also pretty nice. Now it's fairly flat, again, could be a little bit more aggressive, but overall, you know, again, this is supposed to be a daily driver, not a race car, and so overall I think they're a really nice blend of comfort and sportiness. Next to the steering wheel in the Raptor, which the first thing I noticed is it's pretty big, and it's also really thick, a super beefy steering wheel, and it has this very cool, slightly rough plastic on it here that actually looks really cool. And then you have these beautiful big metal paddles as well behind the wheel that are mounted to the wheel, not the steering column, and just really awesome paddles. You also have a few buttons here on the wheel, you know, to switch your driving modes and steering feel, and a few other, you know, the basic radio functions and things like that. But overall, it's a really great wheel. It just has an awesome 9-3 grip, enormous 10-2 notches, and you even have a nice little accent stripe here on the top of the wheel, which could come in handy whenever you're in hairy situations. So overall, a very awesome wheel. Next are the gauges in the Raptor, which are really nice to look at. You know, so you have the two analog gauges there on each side, very large, bold font, very easy to read at a quick glance. And then you have that very large center screen there, which is really high resolution, very nice, crisp graphics, and just a ton of information to go through there. I mean, up top you have your basic auxiliary gauges there, including a gear temperature, which is kind of cool for the gear oil. And then otherwise, though, down here you have a boost gauge you can configure in. You have your basic trip stuff. You have a favorites menu. You can set up some of your favorites. But it also has digital speedometer. You can have you know, your towing, all that kind of stuff set up. You have an off-road section here to help with all that kind of stuff, and then you know, your basic settings and things like that. So just a really nice assortment of stuff there, and I would leave it on the boost gauge here because I think that's the best one to look at. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, this is where it's a little more familiar, you know, with a standard F-150, but that's no bad thing because it's really great. You know, up top here you have the awesome Sync 3 infotainment system, you know, 8 inches, and it's one of the best out there. I absolutely love it. I have it in my Mustang. It's great. It has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is fantastic, but even if you don't want to use your smartphone, the built-in navigation is one of the easiest to use in my opinion as well, thanks to it just being a simple touchscreen with no knobs or controllers or anything to fiddle with. And otherwise, you know, everything, you know, audio controls, phone, all that kind of stuff is so straightforward and easy to use, and just a really well done system here at the Sync 3. Coming down to the rest of the controls, you have your basic volume and tune knob. Nice to have both of those very nice large knobs that have a nice feeling metal type finish to them here, They're not the sturdiest feeling things, that they do wiggle a tiny bit, but you know, again, this isn't supposed to be, you know, something super high end, and overall they look very nice and feel pretty good for the most part. You have two more of those dials down here for your climate controls, as well as a few assortment of buttons here to do your basic climate stuff. And then, you know, you also have here on the left hand side of the center console your four-wheel drive control, which is also automatically switched depending on what driving mode you're in, but you can manually do it here. You also have your trailer backup toggle here, an auxiliary toggles as well for accessories you hook up. And on the right hand side here you have a 12 volt power outlet there, as well as a 400 watt normal house current 110 volt plug there. So very nice to have that, and so just a really great thing, you know, to have all the hookups you need here whenever you're on the go. As far as storage space in the F-150, like most trucks, it is excellent. So anyway, first thing, in the door here, you have a nice large top pocket here, and then coming down to the bottom, you have several different compartments here, including a bottle holder, which is really nice to have. Coming over to the center, by your right leg here, you have another large map pocket area. You can fit all kinds of things in there. Coming up, you have this part that slides away, and I love the carbon fiber trim, by the way. That's a $1,000 option and totally worth it. All the nice carbon fiber treatments you have here on the shifter, on the covers for that, and then also on the doors and whatnot. It just looks really cool. Anyway, you open up that center console here, you have a very large cubby that has two USB jacks in there and just a ton of space. And then coming back, you have another little slot here for a phone or something like that, and then you have two cup holders which are illuminated and a very large size as well. And then you have the center armrest, which is massive and actually is nice and softly padded. And anyway, you open that up, and then you have this first little tray up top here which has a coin holder, and that can actually be completely removed if you want. And then you have this massive amount of space here that you can easily fit 2 gallons of milk in that thing, no problem. You also will find another power outlet down in there, and so just a huge amount of space to store just about anything you could possibly imagine in there. So very cool to have all that. Backseat space in the Raptor is really awesome. I mean, the amount of space you have will put some full-size luxury sedans to shame. I mean, I'm 5'9", and me sitting behind myself, I have probably a full foot of legroom there easily. It's just a massive amount that you'd have to be really big to feel cramped back there. Although I will say that the headroom isn't enormous. I probably have, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches there to spare maybe. So, you know, I could imagine if someone that's super tall may have to slouch in their seat a little bit in order to you know, fit comfortably there as far as headroom goes. But overall, it should be, like I said, plenty of room to fit just about anyone. You also have all kinds of amenities back there, including a fold-down armrest there, which also has some cup holders. And that whole little area feels a little cheaply made, but it's still nice to have that nonetheless. And then looking forward, right up top here, you have 2 cup holders. You also have bottle holders in the doors along with their own pockets there. But then if you go back here, you'll see also a ton of hookups, including a normal cigarette lighter type power outlet, standard, again, 400 watt, you know, normal plug, and then you'll also have 2 more USB jacks back there as well. And so it's just an awesome amount of space. You also have air vents and stuff, and just really a versatile space, tons and tons of room, and just, I think anyone would be more than happy to spend time in the back seat of the Raptor. As far as the truck bed here in the F-150 Raptor, it's pretty spacious. Again, now this is the crew cab with the shorter box there in the back, and there's a few different configurations, but I mean, that's plenty of space, I think, for most people, you know, to fit an ATV or whatever it is you want to put back there. And I do like, you know, it has the soft release there for the tailgate, so it doesn't just flop right down. It feels pretty light as well, which is welcome. But then also built into that tailgate, you have an additional step that can pull out, so very easy for loading things in and out. You also can get optional accessories for, you know, things like built-in ramps that actually let you just drive an ATV right up onto the bed there and things like that. And so overall, you know, I think it's going to be more than enough for, you know, most truck buyers, and has just enough space there to meet everyone's needs for the most part. All right, so starting to go for a drive. The F-150 Raptor here just has your standard Ford key. That's, you know, still great, just, you know, very similar to the Mustang keys and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, this is keyless entry, push button start, of course. You just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off in the 2017 Raptor here. Well, the first thing you notice is, like I said earlier, the seating position is very high in here. You feel like you're king of the road, as you would expect, but it's just, I mean, it actually is pretty good visibility, obviously, because you're sitting up so high. The hood drops down nicely there, so you just see the little fins for the vents. Otherwise, though, you know, you have these big, large side mirrors, so you can see over to your sides very well. This one also does have the 802A package, which is fully loaded, so you have the blind spot monitoring, the 360 cameras, so as far as visibility visibility goes, you don't have anything to worry about there. So, but yeah, just driving down the road though, this thing is very wide, and so lanes seem a little smaller than they do in normal vehicles, and that's one thing that you notice right off the bat. But it feels awesome just cruising down the road. And also, you know, we're just in the normal driving mode, of course, and it's fairly smooth too. I mean, you can still definitely tell this is a, you know, body on frame truck, and you know, you have a little bit of those jiggles over bumps and things like that. But overall, it you know, feels pretty smooth so far. Another thing that you notice right off the bat here in the Raptor is this has the new 10-speed automatic transmission that was co-developed with GM, and this is really the first application here in the F-150 and the Raptor here for this new transmission. And so, I mean, the shifts are so smooth and indiscernible. You really have to actually stare at the talk to see what's going on with the shifting points and whatnot, because it's very, very quiet and smooth the way that it shifts so far. Another thing I am noticing right off the bat here though in the Raptor is there is a good amount of travel with all the pedals. Even the brake pedal, I feel like I have to push it down a third of the way or something before I really start to get some brake bite there. So just lots of travel. So this isn't, you know, a vehicle to be dainty with your inputs. You just, you know, hit the brake hard when you want to hit it. I mean, it still modulates very well. It's just a little more travel than your standard car or, you know, sporty vehicle. And same goes to the throttle response here in the normal mode. It takes a little bit more effort, but of course you can switch that over into sport mode, and that should help sharpen that up a good bit. Alrighty, so let's turn onto the straight road here first and see how it does. We're in sport mode. I'm just gonna leave it in automatic and let it go. There we go. Had to figure out what I was doing, and then it goes pretty good. So this thing has 450 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque from this 3.5-liter twin-turbo EcoBoost V6 engine. So it's the same one that's used in the Ford GT supercar, although obviously it's different tunes and a lot of different things to make that one have so much more power. But it's got a good sound to it here as well. But this 10-speed automatic, it took a little while to figure out what I wanted to do, but then once it did, it was pretty good with keeping it in the meat of the power band. It just keeps you right where that turbo pulls the hardest, and it does a good job of moving this thing down the road. So, and it is a pretty heavy thing to be moving down the road as well. These weigh around 5,500 pounds, but that is actually about 500 pounds lighter than the previous generation Raptor, thanks to this all-aluminum body you now have here with the F-150s for this generation. And so that really helps to actually make this feel more athletic. Now, I haven't driven the older Raptor for any extended period of time, so I don't have a ton of experience with that, but I mean, this is a big truck. You expect it to, you know, not be the fastest thing in the world, but like I said, it moves itself pretty well, and I do like the way this 10-speed is spaced out. It's pretty cool. All right, we're gonna put it in manual mode and try this acceleration here again. As my gear goes flying. All right, this 10-speed is really snappy with its shifts, I gotta say. I mean, as soon as I pulled the paddle, it gave me the gear I wanted. Responsive. And another thing you might be able to hear here is you get a little bit of synthesized engine note here through the speakers, but you also do have a good amount of actual real wastegate noise going on, and you will also get some sounds there from the exhaust, which sounds pretty good too. Again, it's no V8 bellow like the previous one, but it is still a good sound, I think. I've always loved the way V6s sound, and this does sound pretty good to my ears. With these turbos though, it is a little bit of a delayed response where you stomp on it, and then you give it a second or two, and then it really starts to pick up. So it's not immediate or, you know, razor sharp feeling, I'd say, but it certainly gets you moving once you finally put your foot into it and commit. It's really fun too with the way this is sprung, because whenever you do just stomp on it, you can feel that front end and the nose lift up a little bit and push you in the back of your seat, and it definitely makes for an exciting driving experience. And now that we're up at highway speeds as well, it's a really smooth thing. Again, it's actually pretty quiet and refined for, again, this off-road truck with these beefy tires and suspension. It feels really refined. It's super smooth, actually, as far as the ride quality goes. That you know, this is easily a super nice, luxurious feeling daily drivable truck as well. Turning radius is not the best in the Raptor, as you would expect from the wide track, but another acceleration. It feels great, and Another thing that I really like about this transmission as well is it's very normally spaced out gearing whenever you are in manual mode here. Like, you know, I'm in 4th gear and I'm about where I would expect myself to be in 4th gear in a normal like 6-speed vehicle. And so it's not like you have to shift at weird points or that it feels unnatural at all. I know 10 speed sounds astronomically large, but it's really the way that it's geared, it only really uses those, you know, obviously whenever you're in the automatic mode, and it uses them in a very intelligent way so that it never feels odd or strange at all. Alright, so let's take this 5,500 pound beast on some back roads just for the heck of it and see how it does. Again, we're in sport mode here, so we'll see how it handles here. And I mean, the one thing, you know, you have those very tall sidewall tires, and this thing is obviously built for off-roading, not for, you know, corner carving by any means. But I think, you know, Ford Performance wants to make it a well-rounded vehicle, so we'll see how it does around some of the corners here. Taking it a little bit easy, but it does pretty good. I gotta say, I mean, you certainly have a good amount of lean, and like again, this is, like I said, even whenever you're accelerating, you can feel the nose lift up, and so the whole suspension here with these Fox Racing struts here, it definitely gives it a little bit of a floatier ride, but again, that's what you want whenever you're flying over, you know, rough pavement and things like that. But on the street here, it definitely gives it a little bit of a floatier, less precise feel, but again, I'm talking about a 5,500 pound truck, so I cannot fairly compare it with anything that's of a sportier, you know, nature. I mean, you have a very high center of gravity, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, for what it is, it does a pretty decent job. Again, you just can't expect to take corners at super high G-forces or anything like that. By the way, it's worth noting I do have this in the 2-wheel drive mode currently, so you know, you could put it in the 4-wheel drive mode and give yourself a little more grip there. But I think the 2-wheel drive, I haven't had any kind of wheel spin or, you know, slip or anything yet, so I think you know, the 2-wheel drive is plenty to, you know, put the power down whenever you're on, you know, firm pavement. I think it's more than enough, because the 450 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque isn't so much to overwhelm tires as big as those back there. But yeah, this is like a vehicle that's hard to trust whenever you're mid-corner, because there's just so much lean. It's something you kind of have to learn its limits, but it's kind of hard to tell where those limits are, because you get a good amount of lean. I feel like you can take more of that, but it just feels like you're about to roll over, so you kind of back off a little bit. But now we're going over little hills and stuff. That's where it feels awesome. I feel like this thing would be amazing to jump if you're on an actual, you know, sweet dirt road and you know, had a place to safely do that. That's where this thing shines off-road, and we don't have any good off-road trails near here to really show that awesome side of the Raptor here. But you know, like I said, most people do just daily drive these things, drive them on the streets most of the time. So that's why I wanted to focus this review on the street driving. And like I said, it does perfectly fine for a daily driver. But of course, if you want something that's a corner carver, this is certainly not it. But it sounds awesome, by the way, too. You don't hear a ton of the exhaust here through the cabin, but whenever you do have the windows down, you get a real nice sound there from the exhaust, in addition to what's going on here through the speakers. And overall, it does sound really good. Now, I just put the steering into the sport mode for the feeling of it, and that does tighten up the steering a little bit to make it feel a little more confidence-inspiring. But again, like I said, everything's just a little bit duller than, you know, your average Mustang or something like that, again, because it's a truck, as you would expect. One thing, though, that is a little rougher than I was expecting, and I noticed it especially at lower speeds the most, is this automatic. It's a little clunky sometimes, and it isn't the smoothest with its shifts, especially whenever you're at low speeds, and especially like even if you're like downshifting it, and it's downshifting even automatically at lower speeds, not even in manual mode, just whenever it's doing its own thing in automatic. There's some times where it'll be a little clunky, and I'm not sure if that's partially because of the sport mode, because now I have it in the normal driving mode and it seems a little bit smoother, but just something worth noting that again, this is the first year you know, early build of the 10-speed automatic, this brand new transmission, so it might not be perfect. You know, there might be some tuning to do to smooth it out a little bit down the road, but it does a little, I wish it was a little quicker to react. I mean, because obviously if you compare it with even actually the same 10-speed in the ZL1 Camaro, I mean, poor example because it's a completely different type of vehicle, but that having the same transmission with different, obviously they have slightly different internals and tuning, of course, but that same transmission is a lot quicker to figure out what it is that I'm doing whenever I put my foot into it and drop it down like 3 gears immediately, where this will maybe go down 1 or 2 gears, but it's not quite as eager to give you those higher RPMs as I would like, I think. And again, it does hold, you know, its gear in sport mode a little bit better and things like that. but I think the 10-speed, the tuning could be a little bit better on it. But honestly, that's really the only complaint that I have here with the Raptor. I mean, again, it's a truck. It's not my personal, choice for a backroads carver or anything like that, but it is a really just fun thing, and it's like I said, it's super comfortable. So all the people that do daily drive these, I think it makes for a really nice daily driver. For those that off-road, I think, the Raptor's reputation is pretty firmly cemented in the community, and everyone knows what these things can do off-road. They're just incredible from everything that I've read and seen as well. So, it's just, I think they did a really good job here with these new ones, I mean, I think you might have a little bit of a quicker engine response with that old V8, but you have less power with the old V8. This new twin turbo EcoBoost here just has a good amount more power, horsepower and torque. So, I mean, the improvements are undeniable as far as the numbers go. And it's just... This thing does move though for a truck. You just have to be mindful of the fact you're in a 5,500-pound bomber of a vehicle here, and so you kind of have to just keep that in mind whenever you're going into corners and things like that. But yeah, even in sport mode, there's a lot of turns in the steering wheel. I mean, look at the wheel's like almost upside down when I'm going into corners like that. And these are very sharp corners, but it's, again, just you have to use a lot more effort in your inputs with everything in this vehicle. But again, I think they tuned that because you want less sensitivity when you're out on the dirt and things like that. But yeah, so anyway, that's basically all my thoughts here on the 2017 Raptor. Right? It's a beast of a truck. It looks how it drives, and it drives how it looks. It's just a very, very sweet thing. And like I said, it drives like nothing else on the road. It really, this is far and away way different than anything else I've ever reviewed so far. So let me know your thoughts on the Raptor, guys. Huge thanks once again to Hoffman Ford for allowing me to review this Raptor here. This one is for sale, so you can see all the links in the description below for this truck and for Hoffman Ford in general if you're curious to see their inventory. They will be getting in more of these, so definitely reach out to them with the contact below if you're interested in one of these, and they'd be more than happy to help you out. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.